Hello, everyone. Welcome to a rainy Austin morning. So today we're going to pick up the next piece of Module 2. This is the business model canvas. Now, you wouldn't think of this necessarily as an accounting piece, but as I've said before, you've got to get accounting in context. So this is a little tool that's gotten a lot of traction around the world for its simplicity. And so that's all I'm trying to accomplish here is just say in a simplistic form, how can accounting affect your business model, your business plan? So that's where we're headed. So to get there, I need to get you familiar with the business model canvas. And so with that, here it is. And so the model itself, Alex Osterwalder and Pinu or Pinur, I have no idea. I just know Osterwalder. Anyway, they have created this book. It's been out since 2010. I've got a lot of, like I said, a lot of traction. They promote this as the bento box of business plans. As you can see, it's structured as a one-page business plan with these 9 different elements that they think everybody should think about as they put together their business plan. So that's what we're trying to accomplish here today is get you familiar with these ideas. And so when I start looking at this thing, first thing I think about is your value proposition. Okay. What are you doing? And I kind of like this setup. What barriers you're overcoming for people? One, are you reducing the cost? Are you overcoming the need for wealth? Are you making it more accessible? More affordable? Can you increase the access? Okay, that would be one. So if there's a way for you to increase access to a particular thing, then you've also overcome a barrier. Do you reduce the number of skills somebody has to have? For example, Canvas, not this Canvas, but the Canvas we use in the class, it is a web design tool in a sense. I do not know HTML. And so that's why the barrier that they've tried to overcome, that's why it's so popular. And time, can you make things faster for a person? So I tend to think about my value propositions in 4 pieces. Then there is what are my customers? And so who are you creating the value for? Um, there's whole courses on that, so you don't need me to talk about that element, but we certainly are aware of that. Um, the next piece you might think about is the key resources that you need. To me, that's a key piece. And then the next one I tend to think about is the key activities. Okay, what do we need to be able to do? Now, a couple of things that I haven't talked about right now are the customer relationships and the channels of delivery of your product. Again, entire courses are built around those things. You don't need me to talk about how to build customer relationships and how to select your logistical channels of getting products from your world to somebody else. And so, but make no mistake, we're trying to use these to link your value proposition to your customers. Because if you've got a product and the customers can't appreciate it and you can't get it to them, it might as well not exist. So, with that, I bring you to the last couple of pieces here. The partners, who do I need to make this happen? And then, uh, oops, already done that one. Sorry, everybody. Then down here, the final piece is kind of tied to accounting because you got your costs, you got your revenues, and then at the intersection, you hopefully have some profit. And so those are kind of the pieces of this. And the natural look to this part is to say, here's the accounting. It's the profit. It's the revenue and the costs. Okay. And whether or not we get profit. Okay, that's the obvious piece. But the other thing that you want to think about is in all of these other areas, okay, where do we find the accounting? And where is the accounting missing? Because accounting information certainly has its limits. in terms of what it can provide. And so I want to spend a little bit of time talking about these other elements and where you might see them in terms of your accounting context and the economic activity that has to be recorded as an accounting transaction. So let's go back to a blank one of these. Oops. And we'll start, actually, we'll just go back to here and start this one again. And so uh, let's talk about customers. Is there anything in customers that shows up in your financial statements? And the answer is no. Okay. So if I have a customer list, that's very valuable to me, yet it doesn't show up as an asset in my accounting. And so that is one of the criticisms we have of the accounting piece. Now, an element of that is, okay, I don't know how to cost it out. I don't know what the cost of that is. And so as a result, I can't put it on the balance sheet. Don't have a real value for it. Customer relationships. Okay, unless there's some sort of transaction in there, it's a specific transaction. Uh, Not really. So in some sense, some of your customer relationships and maybe customers themselves, you could turn it into a franchise business. Franchises are customers of the bigger organization. And so any fees paid by a franchisee to join your group, uh, that would show up, okay, because that's cash coming in and they're getting some value or providing some value either through intellectual property in terms of expertise or some consulting or those kinds of things. So I could get a transaction, but ultimately those are hard to find here. Again, down here in channels, okay, if I've invested in a network or invested in those kind of capabilities, great. I can record that. But if you're in a situation, let's think about Amazon in its infancy, okay, they didn't really have a fleet of trucks running around lost in the neighborhood. They defaulted all of that to FedEx or um, UPS or USPS. And so when they started putting trucks in, that became an asset. And so we could quantify that value proposition. That ultimately is something that just gets reflected in the profit. The greater the profit, the more valuable supposedly this proposition is. Key activities, we talked about some of those. Again, very difficult to quantify. Ultimately, the accounting for that, if you've got people or relationships with folks, you could have contracts, fees. Um, Same thing with partners. One of those that we talked about was financial uh, support, and that's going to show up in terms of bank loans. It might show up in terms of investments in the company where there's an exchange of cash for stock, variety of those kinds of things. And finally, the key resource part. Okay, have we locked in some sort of relationship with folks who are providing a key resource? Do we have contracts? Do we have obligations? Do we have those things? So accounting is lurking throughout this process, but ultimately, accounting is not going to reflect all the elements of a business plan. And so as a result, accounting is not probably the best, well, I'm sure it's not the best way to show long-term value and potential for your value proposition. It helps you with pieces, but it doesn't show the entire picture. And so that kind of summarizes the context in which we're going to look at accounting transactions next. So with that, I hope you've enjoyed the tour of the business model canvas, and we'll talk to you again in a little bit. Thanks for playing along. Take care. Bye.